Over the years, Scotland's travellers have gained an unfair reputation, their lifestyle frequently misunderstood. But these photographs taken by Gordon Shennan shine a light on the way they lived. From the early 1920s on, he documented the travelling community and the struggles they faced. But Shennan wasn't a professional photographer. He was a so-called cruelty man, an inspector for the Royal Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. He worked in child welfare until his retirement in 1965. He covered thousands of miles every year, crisscrossing the country, taking pictures as he went. Shennan worked with all kinds of families, not just those from the travelling community, but the conditions in which the travellers lived became a frequent subject for his photos. So would you have grown up in accommodation like this?
No, my parents did, but I grew up in a Bedford bus.
Jess Smith comes from a travelling background, as does Dr. Lynne Tammi. We're meeting in Newtonmore about the Highland Folk Museum's reconstruction of a travellers' camp to look at Gordon's pictures. Seems like it would have been quite a hard life.
I mean, I think it was a hard life, but do you know, if you've got to kind of think about it all the time. Nobody's going to say it was easy, but there was the freedoms that brought.
The lifestyle was really, really hard, but then you could go into anybody biding in any of the islands into a wee croft and see it was just as hard for them.
Yeah.
Without heating and without glass in the windies and things like that. The further back you go. But we're made of tough. Yeah, we're made of tough.
We are.
To make a living, the travellers picked berries or worked the farms at harvest time, and they turned their hands to all sorts of crafts.
They could work the tin, they could strip trees, you know, and use the bark. They used the willows for making baskets. The alder tree, they could make washing pegs. And they would go round the doors and get a few pennies for selling wares that people needed.
I'm just looking at this photograph. They're obviously working the tin. My family's trade was basket making. And this just really reminded me of that. I do basket making now as well, but not nearly as good as they did. I don't think it was ever recognised, the real skills that we had and carried with us. And of course they were passed down the generations.
The photos bring up good memories and also bad. 3 of Lynne's great aunts were removed by a different inspector, put in a home and eventually sent abroad. This happened to many traveller children, and although Shennan was reportedly kind and became friends with the travelling families he met, as a cruelty man, he had the power to take children from their families if he felt it necessary. And that raises questions about the photos for Lynne and Jess.
I'm never quite sure if these are just posed photographs because people felt they had to do it. We obviously can't say what the families felt, and we also can't, we don't know what his narrative was, what he was about. He was obviously a photographer. He was obviously interested in this history of gypsies and travellers. We don't know, but the bottom line is what his job was.
It's his position.
And that gave him access to the families.
And that makes looking at these pictures from the Shennan archive bittersweet for Lynne and Jess. They record a way of life that's long gone.
It is a really important part of Scotland's social history. If we hadn't had this record from him, then that would have been something that had been missing.
Indeed, because it would have been very easy to, for people who live in that life, like our relatives, to actually just disappear. And it's very, very difficult to turn around and say, this happened to us, we were part of Scotland's story. That thanks to, it's a terrible thing to say, a cruelty officer, this is evidence as to who we were and where we lived and our culture.
You can see the Shennan archive for yourself. Some images are online, and there's a link to them on our Facebook page, or you can view by appointment at Inverness Museum.